We're rolling. We're rolling.
At Brew Shop.
So it is the 2nd of February. It's the much needed deload week this week, episode 4 of our little series leading into the World Championships. And although it's been deload week this week, that doesn't necessarily mean that the training intensity has been any less. The intensity is still there, just the volume and workload is a little bit less, but something that Kane and I do quite often, or we have been doing quite often in these deload weeks, is we've been making sure that we kind of have a bit of a check-in. We grab a coffee in the morning before we go to the gym, and we just kind of discuss some points throughout the whole entire training block and the phase, and we kind of just collaborate together with our ideas and see if we're on the same page or if we've picked up on different things within the training phase in terms of what worked, what didn't work, where we feel like we're tracking, where we're heading towards, which in a space right now is actually quite important as we get into those final preps leading into the World Championships. I think this is really important for us as a team to kind of come together and make sure that we're on the same page, but also to be there to support one another if either of us does have any sense of doubt or any insecurity, I guess, potentially, as well as another word I could use. So this is a really important thing that we do, and I think it's unique to us as well, and I guess unique to us being a team on the tandem, that making sure that we're both on the same page as well. So we're just going to run you through what our process is on a typical deload debrief. And kind of you get a bit of an insight as to some of the things that we discuss in our processes, how we go about it. So I don't know, you want to kick it off, Kane?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump in. I must say, you are so beautiful and articulate with your words there, mate. I always come in second on the microphone and go, hi everyone. We're here, week 4, episode 4. We're at the Brew Shop, deload week. We're at the back end of the deload week now, where, as Luke mentioned, we like to sit down, have a bit of a catch up, and reflect on the last phase that was the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, whatever you want to call it, and look at what worked and have a bit of an opportunity to reflect, and I think to gather some different perspectives as well, because obviously as a team, for the two of us on the tandem, yes, it is a joint journey around the track, but I think that we do gather some different perspectives as we go, and sometimes when we're deep in the hole in a training session, we don't really get that same opportunity because that same opportunity to kind of talk through everything in those perspectives, because we're so focused on getting that bike around the track as quick as we can, that it's nice to step away from the training environment and to be able to reflect in a moment like this, where we don't have to worry about anything else other than that. So I guess moving forward from here, we're 7 weeks out from World Championships, and we've had a really solid block of training in. And during this last phase, we did get the call that we would be representing Australia at the World Championships, which was really exciting. And for me, this was a huge phase and gave me a huge lift into this last phase. And it was perfect timing that came about as well. Leading in, as I was asking myself some questions at the start of January, wondering how I was going to get myself fired up at that same level that we did leading into nationals. And I was a little bit concerned because I had a bit of time out over Christmas, had a little bit of a break, and coming back I was like, how am I going to fire up? How am I going to get that dog out again? And it took about a week, and realised very quickly that wasn't a worry. That wasn't something I needed to worry about, and was able to get fired up pretty quickly. And to get that call saying that we'd be representing Australia in 7-8 weeks time was just absolutely huge as well. And for me, talking about a big positive of this phase was another tick in the favour of my self-belief. I have had a lot of challenges around my own self-belief on the bike, and the more confirmation that I get around the training that we do, and also confirmation around being selected for national teams and whatever it might be, the more that I realise how much I've deserved this position and how much I've earned to be here. And I think that's really helped me to be able to double down on some of the processes that I have around racing, training, nutrition, sleep, stress, all of those things. I'm starting to realise, wow, these are actually working, and now I'm starting to double down on them and really hone in on them. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of the positive energy from this phase. Luke, I don't know whether you want to come in and talk about some of your big wins and positive experiences from the last 3-4 weeks of training from here.
Yeah, I like the bit that you said about like the trying to find that intensity coming into training, because I guess for context, the training phase we're in now is a similar training phase that we were in probably through June, July last year, and we were in a position where we were waiting to find out about Worlds, but it was kind of an uncertainty that we were training with this intensity, but in the back of your mind, there's this, I wouldn't, like, there was a doubt back then that, like, are we actually going to go to Worlds? Like, why are we training so hard? What are we actually doing? And I pick up on that too with this current block. It probably was one of the hardest training blocks I've done in a while, and that's saying something that I've been doing this for 15 years. Like, there was so much volume in the training, but we managed to get it through, we'll get it done. And I think knowing that we had a positive outcome on the horizon did help that, in fact, to rock up and train every day at the intensity that is required. Not that necessarily we don't have that ability to work hard and go that deep. And that's something that we've discussed quite a bit this block. And I would say it's a bit of a theme between us two, is just having that work ethic and having that determination and drive every single session. And that's kind of what I would summarize the theme of this block, is that we've both been supporting each other with that intensity, and getting behind each other in training efforts in the gym and on the track, and even within our training group too, building that kind of team morale and team cohesion with everybody in terms of work ethic as we all kind of work towards some bigger goals. And I think that's probably been a really positive point for the both of us, is just that camaraderie and that support that we've been able to give each other and feed off one another, and then hopefully, feed that to the rest of the training group and the rest of the squad as well. That kind of it lifts the environment, and it does make training easy. But that's not to say that we require it every day from the group, because between the two of us and internally we have that drive and determination. And I think that's been a big factor for us as well, that we can do the work and we can still perform as well. Because even though we have been under a lot of training fatigue, some of our training splits have been really good. They've been comparable to where we've been in the past. Weights in the gym have been going up as well. Like, we've been getting stronger and making some gains in progression. So there's been definitely a lot of positives this training block. And I think the team culture is something that's not only just the cycling program, but as well the waist program. I think we can touch on the public holiday gym session was probably one of the best training environments that I think a lot of people have experienced for the first time at Waste. But for me, I've experienced that plenty of times before, but that was the first time I've experienced that in a while, where the whole entire gym was just behind each other and supporting one another, and just the vibe in there was insane. And like, those days are rare, but they're also very special. And I think they're some of the highlights for me throughout this training block. And I think the more we can kind of continue to build upon those positive things and those really positive, like the team culture, that starts to snowball and create more emphasis of the positive positive mindset leading into the major comp. And but yeah, that's not to say that there haven't been challenges. There certainly has been. And I guess, Kane, what do you want to talk about? Some of the challenges you've faced, whether it's been mental or physical challenges, and we'll just elaborate on that a little bit.
Yes, I guess, how could I miss the public holiday gym session? That was absolutely unbelievable in Waste last Friday, to have everybody getting around each other. I've experienced something similar in the past, but not at that level. And I will say that's going to go down in Waste folklore, I reckon. Shout out to Cruz Hogan for bringing the vibes, because I reckon that man started it all that day. So yeah, unreal. But to answer your question in regards to some of the challenges that we've faced over this phase, I think for me, I'm kind of there at the moment, feeling that real accumulation of fatigue from the last phase. And definitely coming into the back end of this week, I'm realizing how much fatigue is in the system and how much recovery is required before we head into the next phase. And I think obviously your physical and psychological energy is so linked, and when you're physically depleted, it sometimes also hits you psychologically as well. And I've just felt pretty flat, pretty low the last couple of days. And I know that that's part of the process, and I know that that's part of the training phase that we're in at the moment. And I know that will flip. And I guess for me, during this time, it's about practicing as much mindfulness as I can, and knowing that from moment to moment I can feel a certain way, but that might not be what I'm feeling tomorrow. So if I'm having a day where I'm feeling a bit flat, a little bit low in energy, or just low mentally, that's not necessarily how I'm going to feel tomorrow. I might feel that way now, but it might change in an hour. So for me, that's true mindfulness, is being able to understand thoughts, feelings, emotions in the moment, but also know that they can be salient and they can change over time as well. Where was I going with that? I kind of lost my way a little bit now.
Just about challenges of the phase, and
yeah, and I guess for me, moving
emotional.
forward into the next phase, I know that if I favour some of those processes that I know work for me in terms of building my energy back up and building that energy back, that we'll have one positive session back on the track, say next Monday doing starts or something like that, and I will feel fired up and ready and energised. And but right now is the opportunity to be able to rest, recover, and go from there. Luke, do you want to talk about some of the challenges that you've faced over the last phase?
Yeah, I think majority of the challenges probably stem from the physical load as well, the toll that it takes on the body, and then the implication that has on recovery as well. I think that's probably some of the challenges and stuff. And I think actually I'm kind of lost for words where I'm going to go with that too. I would honestly just say that most of the challenges have been physical, to be honest. Like obviously that does impact recovery, and then that kind of then starts to stem into the mental side of things, which you touched on there as well, saying, not necessarily, like, we have a tendency to kind of catastrophize and hold ourselves to such a high standard of performance that any little dip in that, it's you take that personally and take that as a reflection. Like, I know I did that personally on Wednesday. We had a race day simulation trial day, and I'm on the front, I'm steering the bike, and I took a really bad line through the turn 3-4, the back end of the second lap in our time trial. And yes, you could say there's other factors, that I hadn't ridden aero bars since nationals, hadn't ridden a front disc since nationals. There's factors like that, but I take that personally, that that's a reflection of me and my performance, the steering of the bike, and that's my job. And when that doesn't go to plan or doesn't go well, I am my own worst critic in that moment, as I think a lot of athletes tend to be, and that's totally fine, and that's normal, and that's okay. Like you said, don't shy away from the emotion, don't hide it, be aware of it, accept it, and understand it. But the trick is to not let it overcome you and let it win. Don't let those negative thoughts win. And I think another thing that I've seen from a lot of elite level athletes is that we all are very critical of ourselves and our performances. But what separates the good from the best athletes that I've seen is the ones that are critical have a solution to that. They always go, okay, well, this wasn't great, but this is how I fix it. They don't go, that was terrible, and leave it at that, because when you do that, that's a very much closed mindset, fixed mindset, and you're not going to grow from that perspective. Whereas if you can go, okay, I accept that didn't go the way that I wanted to, and things didn't plan out the way that it was, but this is how I fix it, this is how I put a plan in place. I think that's what will set you up better for the next block and the next phase. And that's definitely something that Kane did well for me on Wednesday. It was like, he just gave me that reassurance and said that, it's okay, like, things, you haven't ridden bars, you haven't done these kinds of efforts in a while. It's like, that's totally okay. Then we came out the next effort and absolutely pretty much nailed it. So like those small things, I think, like, yes, they've been challenges, but they've been instantly overcome by a positive reinforcement or by just a positive reassurance. And I think that's been really good from this block as well. So
it's that reassurance of processes. Hey, I think the reassurance of processes is a big one. Knowing that when something doesn't necessarily go to plan in an effort or in whatever it is, you have, I think for both of us as a team, you have the other side to say, it's okay. We know that we have the processes to be able to turn that around if something doesn't necessarily go to plan. Like for me on Wednesday, I haven't been in that trial environment since Nationals Melbourne, and I didn't necessarily feel as stable as what I could have been on the back of the bike, and I, like you said, we're our biggest critic. And for me, I came down after that first effort and I knew, okay, these are what I need to do to be able to execute in the second one. And then we came out and did do that. And I think that for the both of us being able to understand where like both of our mindsets can go in those moments where we have those challenges. We can pull each other up and bring each other up to that level that we need to be at and say, look, this is okay. We know that we can turn this around and execute on the next one. And it actually doesn't matter. That last one's gone. We actually don't need to worry about that now, because our current self only has to focus on the next effort. Something that we spoke about last week was one rep, one effort at a time. There's no point lingering on about something else. We can feel the emotions in the moment and be able to learn from that experience, but then go, okay, let's quickly turn our attention to the next one and go, okay, what do we need to do to be able to execute our processes? I think that's where you were kind of aiming with that one, Luke.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Where do we go next? where are we off to next?
Wrap it up if you want.
Yeah.
The next block.
Yeah, I guess we can wrap it up. I don't know. What are we doing in the next block? Look, I got no idea. I haven't had a look ahead. Like I said, we focus on one rep, one session at a time. I haven't necessarily looked that far ahead to actually what we're moving into in the next phase. On the track and gym, a lot of our efforts will be replicating what we were doing leading into nationals in December. So we're kind of moving to the point that we were at late October, early November, leading into 2024 nationals, which was in December in Melbourne, because we obviously went over to Melbourne and executed and did what we needed to do. So it worked. So we know that we don't necessarily need to tweak too many things from what we were doing leading into that competition, because we know that if it worked then, it'll probably work again. And we've done the base work now, and we're building from a really solid foundation. I'd say we're in a much more exciting opportunity than what we were leading into nationals. So once we get into the fast work on the bike and the lower repetitions in the gym, which kind of start to build in that strength and power, I think we're going to see some of those times come down, and we're going to be pushing that positive momentum forward once again. What do you reckon, Luke? Anything else to wrap it up before we head into the gym?
Yeah, I think just to finish that off is, yeah, the work's being done now, and something that I said to Kane leading into nationals when we did enter this phase was like, now this is when the fun begins. This is when we start going fast, and this is when we see the true taper start to kind of take hold, and we see those splits come down and the atmosphere and the vibe lifts, and that's exactly what's going to happen this time around. But like Kane just said then, that leading into nationals, like, yes, we had a goal and a target, but there was still uncertainty around the actual outcome. Was now we're going to the World Championships, and I think you add that to the fact of we know what we're going to get from this block. I think it's going to be a truly special build, and we'll keep building on that momentum, because momentum builds momentum, and that'll keep snowballing and create that snowball effect as we lead into World Championships. So I think, yeah, we're about to head into a really exciting phase, and yeah, this is basically how we do our debriefs every deload week as well. Obviously not on camera, so maybe there's a little bit more, I guess, awkward feelings trying to talk and get our point across on a camera, but hopefully you got a bit of a feeling and understanding of what we do and how we go about this. Yeah, because I guess content-wise is a little bit not as much going on, but you know, if we get to a point in the future, if you have questions and want to know more about us and our training blocks and stuff like that, feel free to ask questions. We're more than happy to answer them. But for now, I think we'll finish up these coffees. We'll head into the gym. Got a very simple gym session today, just keeping the body ticking, blowing the cobwebs out, and then a full weekend off, so no training at all, and then we're straight back into it on Monday. So we'll catch you in the gym.
All right. Hello, viewer. We're back for set number 2. Set number 2, 10 reps again. Speed moved really well in that first set, so we'll try and load it up and try and get the same out of that one. So you might have noticed the box under the barbell for me. I've been doing a box squat for the last couple of years. Since experiencing a disc injury in 2021, we've been gradually kind of starting from scratch on the squats. So We started with a 60 centimeter box, 50 centimeter box. We've gone to 40 over the course of the last couple of years, kind of building in that strong movement pattern of the squat so that when we do drop the box away, I should be able to start from a pretty strong base. We haven't pulled the box away as of yet because we just need more time to run at that skill development. And at the moment, I'm getting a really, really quality stimulus from being able to squat really heavy to the box. And we know that if we take the box away, there's going to be probably a month, 5 weeks of really building that movement pattern and building that weight back up, which is a month, 5 weeks out of not being able to really build that same rate of force development with the big heavy weights that I'm able to do at the moment. So the hope is that potentially after World Champs leading towards the Paralympics, when we might have 5-6 months in between, that we do take that box away and build from there. But it might also be that we leave it all the way through until after Paralympics, when there's far more time to be able to build in that base without the box. So we're going for 110 kilos again. I was thinking about going up, but I've had to put a little bit of a handbrake on myself, knowing that we are in a bit of a deload week, trying to let the body freshen up a little bit. So hopefully get the same sort of speed again, and you got the front angle this time, get to see me make some faces. So yeah, let's go. That's it. I did do 10 reps. I thought I might have miscounted for a moment there. Sometimes you forget how to count to 10 when you're deep in a set. And check the speed. Ooh, a little bit slower than the last one. That's okay. Head across the Loki for his first set of speed squats now. Let's go.
All right, it's my turn for some velocity speed squats now. I like doing these in the deload week as it's kind of a bit of a gauge as to how my strength level has been progressing. There's a couple philosophies and methodologies with velocity-based training. One way you can kind of prescribe a speed reading. So the way this is measured is meters per second. So you can prescribe a speed reading and then select weights that fall within that bracket. I'm personally not a big fan of that. I much rather prescribing weight and then tracking the speed at which I move that weight over given training blocks. So I kind of do this every deload week. I do the same weights every block. So 140, 160, 180, 190, 200, and then potentially do a top set at 210 today. But I will see how the body's feeling and how the weights are moving. 3 reps at 140 right now. Pretty straightforward. Wrap my knees, get in and do it. And then as I get to 160, then I put my belt on and try and move it as quick as I can. So yeah, let's give it a bit of a rip. And I do struggle with 140 because it's at a weight that's like, it's not super heavy and I can kind of jump with it, but I'll just move as quick as I can. Ooh. Felt pretty good. Says it's a PB, so I don't know, I'll take that. Up to 160 we go. They don't feel great, but I think it was a PB. So 113. Whether it's the gym away reads different or not, I'm 140, this is 160. So whether the gym away reads different or not, this one I don't know, but see what happens. shit. All right, so that was a PB at 160. I moved it at 1 meter per second, so very, very happy with that. Squats are actually feeling pretty good, surprisingly. So up to 180 now for a double. I've set the gym up in front of me so I can actually see what I hit straight away. I can give you that feedback, but basically just once the belt goes on, just get fired up. Jesus. 0.94. Either I'm on or this is reading well above. I don't know. I'll claim it. I'll claim it. The executive decision's been made. I'm skipping 190 and go straight to 200. These are moving very quick today. So 200 for a single, see what that does. If that's good, I'll go to 210. If that's good, I might even go to 220. So see you at 200. All right, 200 kilos, single. As these weights keep going up, my intensity and the way that I attack each weight just keeps lifting. I feel like a lot of this is mindset driven. The more, I guess, stimulated I am or more aggressive I am towards the weight, the easier it feels when I unrack it, which then means I can essentially move it a lot faster than if I just kind of went under it half-assed and didn't really care. So yeah, I usually pace back and forth, get psyched up, give the foot a big old stomp, and then move it as quick as I can. So let's do that. Jesus. Oh, 0.7. That is a huge PB. These squats are actually feeling insanely good, which is not surprising to be honest, but I'll take that. So for a bit of context, I just moved 200 at 0.77. My previous best at 0.77 was 180 kilos. So effectively I'm moving at the same velocity, but moving 20 kilos more mass at that. So that would indicate that my strength levels in the gym are probably at all-time highs. Like I feel pretty confident if I was to do a 1 rep max, I probably would do a PB, but we're not doing that right now. We'll save that for a later date. But basically I'll just sit here, I'll get myself hyped up and psyched up for 210. This may be the last one, but I have a feeling I'll probably end up doing 220 after this. So just sit here, get in the zone, go through my pre-lift routine, and send it. I'm gonna go up 220. All right, we are in uncharted territory. I've not ever done velocity stuff at 220, so I'd be curious to see how this goes. If I can keep it above 0.55, I'd be pretty stoked at that. I feel like I will definitely do that. So same principle as before, get in the zone, get fired up, rip it as hard as I can. All right, let's go. Five, 6. Take that.
All right. All right, I'll start that again.
Do you want me to start it?
No.
Do you want me to do it?
Okay, last deload gym session of the week complete. It was a pretty good session. We got in some pretty good quality squats. I did some staggered stance deadlift and just a couple of other accessories at the back end of the session, and then finished it off with just half an hour cruising at about 90 RPM. Just some zone 2 cardio to finish up, which was pretty hard. I knew at the start of the session that I wanted to do half an hour on the bike, but I found myself getting onto the bike and going, oh, maybe we just do 20, maybe we just do 15. And then straight away, as soon as those thoughts came in, I was like, no, you're doing half an hour. And now we're feeling better for it. So we're just reflecting on the session that just was. I find that in these deload sessions, when we do a squat, that's, for me, in my session today, I went a little bit lighter than what I did last week. So I ended up at 110 kilos for 2 sets of 10, whereas last week we did 5 lots of 10 and I topped out at 130. However, the weight felt just as heavy today, and I think that's because you get under the barbell going, oh, this is going to be a bit lighter, this feels a bit lighter, and in a way you're like, this is going to be easy, and you just subconsciously maybe you don't get yourself as fired up for the same set as you would have in the week before. And I find those sessions are hard because you come out after the set and you don't have that same sense of achievement because you're like, well, that should feel easy, but it felt really heavy again. But there's a process to this. It was moving pretty fast. Worked with the physio on a few new trunk stabilizing exercises, which I'm actually quite excited for to bring into the next phase in the gym. Coming out of the gate on the tandem, there's a lot of trunk stability required, but there's also an element of rotational control where you're wanting to keep yourself nice and still so that, as I said last week in the episode, so that the bike moves in a nice straight line. And there's an exercise that we've just added in where I'm lying on a long foam roller and working on some abdominal control. And there was that movement from side to side happening. And it felt exactly like it does out of the gate on the bike, and I feel like that's going to have a really good transfer. So I'm excited to bring that in. Time to recover for the weekend, go home, chill out, watch some of the Nations Cup that's on over in Adelaide at the moment. Looking forward to watching the Aussies in the green and gold tear it up on the boards. There hasn't been a Nations Cup in Australia for 27 years, so pretty excited to sit back and watch that, and I think that's going to help me get fired up for the next phase and into World Championships as well. I'll pass the mic over to Luke to have a bit of reflection on his session.
Yeah, so like what Kane touched on there was I think the mindset is everything when it comes into the gym. Like even though it is a deload week, so the reduction of not necessarily intensity, the reduction of volume is there as well. But because you know that there's less workload, it's almost like we can fall into a trap of not necessarily going to that mental place that you need to kind of extract out that performance. But that's part of the challenge of this week as well. And it's something I did mention during my squat sets too, was like when I was getting ready for 200 kilos, like even though it's a weight I've done multiple times and multiple reps of, if I don't approach the bar with that same intensity, then yeah, weights do feel heavy. So that's part of the challenge of this deload week too, is that was me early on in the week, whereas like our week's a little bit swapped. I think you get the velocity stuff at the beginning of the week where you require that intensity still to be there to get the lifts out at the where we need them to be. Whereas for me, that was my session today. But yeah, I was actually really pleasantly surprised with today's session. I didn't feel great when I came in here, but just as I started warming up and getting the bar moving, the squats felt really good. And yeah, the velocities I ended up at and the speeds I ended up at were probably like, they are my best ever. And I'm not surprised that I did that because of all the work that we've done over the last few weeks and stuff, but that sets me up really well for this next block and this next phase as we keep pulling out workload and continuing to work towards those speed targets that we're going to be trying to hit on the track. And like it puts me in a good spot mentally because I very much require knowing that I'm strong in the gym and knowing that my squat is where I want it to be. And if I have those things, then everything else seems to fall in line too, that like I know that I've done the work in the gym. And today's session was a really good one for me to kind of put that to bed and say that, yep, that's that part of that phase of training done. Now we focus on speed and quality, and all the bike work we do from here on out kind of comes up and keeps freshening up and keeps getting better. And it's going to be exciting leading into the next block. I'm super excited where we are at and what we're going to be doing. And as I mentioned early on, this is the phase now where quality is everything, and less is more as well. Like doing more for the sake of doing more doesn't always yield the results. It's doing a lot with a little, and what we've got is quality efforts. So every time we've got go to the track, whether it's 2, 3, 4 efforts, it's every effort is at maximum quality. We don't get a redo or an extra run. It's like, okay, make everything count, because at the end of the day, that's what our kilo is one ride, or 2 rides with the qualifying, but it's one chance, one ride, so make sure you nail it the first time around. And yeah, really, really excited, really stoked. I don't know, how you feeling with everything else? Anything else you want to add?
No, mate, nothing else. Yeah, that's about all I've got.
Yeah,
So.
I guess I will add one last thing, and it's something we've touched on before and mentioned a lot around mindset, is that the Chris Hoy has a principle called Only You Know, and I wanted to discuss this last week in the post-gym debrief, but I kind of forgot, or I remembered now, was only you know, and that basically means only you know how hard you train, only you know everything that you've done. You can kind of fool your coaches, you can fool everybody, but you can't fool yourself if you didn't do the work. And I think between the both of us, we know personally that we did everything possible this block. We did, we committed fully every session, every effort, every rep in the gym, every pedal stroke on the track. We gave it our absolute all, so we can finish this block knowing that that's everything that we've done on I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but we've done everything we possibly could that sets us up really well for the next phase. And that work ethic takes time to build and develop over many, many years of training, which we've both been doing, and something that I pass that message on to the young juniors that I coach as well, is that work ethic is everything. Like at this level, there is talent. Everybody has talent, but it's how bad do you want it? And I heard a quote or a saying in a podcast, and I can't remember where it was, and I can't remember how to reference, but basically it was talking about Michael Jordan, who is arguably one of the best basketballers ever, but the quote or the saying was, Michael Jordan was the best, but without work ethic and discipline, who was Michael Jordan? He's no one. So I'll leave it at that.
Drop the mic.
See you next week.
See you next week.